Hello, everybody, and welcome to Council Checkup. I'm Don Walmsley, your host with NACTV, and once again in our chair, I don't know if it's a hot seat so much as a tempered seat.
Yeah, it's pretty
I'm not
comfortable.
Sure. Is our mayor, Blake McCutcheon. Welcome, Blake. Good
Thank
to see you again.
Yeah, thank
you were absent the last time and sent two of your compatriots.
I did.
Brian
right.
and Murray, and that was a good thing. And I can say you weren't conspicuous by your absence. So it's good to see you here in the chair alone, and we'll carry on from there.
That's
so,
good.
Since we've talked, some things have been announced. I guess one of the biggies is we are getting an RCMP, new RCMP.
Yeah, we absolutely
building.
hope. I guess that's right. It's out for tender right now, and unless we came back with an absolutely number that we couldn't handle, yeah, no, it's definitely, the tender closes next Tuesday or Wednesday, and we'll know right away whether it's in our wheelhouse, like we have been projecting around that 5 million mark, so we'll just see how it unfolds. But we've had, I think, 17 people want to quote it, so.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah.
So that gives you a range of competition.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and something like that won't be like a wood frame building. It'll be mostly concrete and steel,
That's exactly right, yeah.
And I sort of got to look at a plan, and that looks fairly large, like larger than just us.
I've actually had a lot of people ask me, they say, well, is it 2 stories because it's so high, right?
Yeah.
But it's just because of the safety and the security and the reason that it has to be built, that's the way it looks, but it is just a one big story building. And don't forget, at the end of it, we do get a 25-year lease with the federal government, which is as secure as you can get, I hope. Yeah. And at the end, and before that 25 years is over, if the numbers are good, we will have it paid for. So it's a really good deal for the town, right? I mean, it sounds like a lot of money, but the fact that we're getting a lease payment every year, and the building is ours at the end, it's really
well. And the truth is, we all know that one that was built when back in the 70s.
83.
83.
Yeah.
Really has served its time, but things have changed. We've got a lot more people in the detachment. It's an active area. The RCMP itself is sort of redistributed 2 or 3 times how things work. So there's a fairly large area that gets covered out of that.
Like, I think this building is about twice as big, but it's interesting. In '83, that original building was built for $300,000.
Wow.
It's hard to believe,
wow.
right? But then you go back to what you paid for your first house, right?
Yeah, when you take a look at those kind of things, that's
I know,
right.
So.
Well, and I think we're all, everybody I've talked to sees the location as being just the logical choice.
Yep.
Right close to the fire hall, our 2 potential emergency services, right by each other. That makes
and they can share the gym and things like that.
Oh, and they're at scenes together, and so it just builds that sort of collaborative kind of.
And like talking to Mark and to Colby, our 2 lead RCMP officers, they say actually it'll help a lot for recruiting into our area too, right? Because people that are looking to move and come to a different detachment, I mean, coming to a brand new building and a community that's growing like ours, like it's really a big advantage, right? So.
Well, let's. I'm going to get back to growing like ours a bit later, but so there's that. I notice that there is active digging happening just to the west of the apartment, the apartment blocks that's right by the fire hall.
Yes, right.
What's going on there?
Okay, so I don't know if we talked, I think maybe we did, but anyhow, that is a collaboration between Dimitri Schiller, who owns that apartment block, and that is his property there, and a collaboration between him and High Life, and that is where they're moving forward with that, I call it a bunkhouse mentality. They have another word for it, but it's where they're going to be building units for the very first newcomers that come to town when they're still single, and they haven't got their families here yet. So there's a potential there to.
Excellent.
There's a potential there to build 4 buildings, 2 stories high. Each building can hold 32 suites, 1-bedroom suites. So and just with
communal kitchens.
Yes, with communal kitchens. Yeah. So that's.
Oh, you know what? And rental has been a premium for those smaller units, big time.
Yeah. So I'm really hoping it was approved at the council level. Everything's been signed off on, and I was just hoping that with the price of lumber and stuff like that hadn't got pushed back, right? But. Yeah, we're hopeful that it's moving forward.
I see our lots at the CN property. There's 2 builds happening right now.
Yeah, we're down to, I think we either have 6 or 7 building permits pulled there right now. And I think right now, well, there is only 1 lot left for sale. So the rest are all gone.
Wow.
So, yeah. So
once that hit the market.
Yeah. That was pretty spectacular.
And just on that same theme, we're still looking at other areas of development people are proposing?
Yeah, we're still
things?
looking at that one across the road there, where the water tower is. That's still under consideration. Braze are still moving forward with their. I mean, that's a little ways away yet because it has to go up to government.
Yeah.
That's a big parcel that it has to be approved and lots of other hoops to jump through. But yeah, everything's in motion.
Well, I think there's an opportunity for it. I think, you know, the more employment is coming available. Part of the ticket, I know that there's lots of people looking to move rurally, but you need housing and you need work.
Yeah.
And sometimes they can find work, but it's really hard to find housing.
Yeah, I agree, and I really think. I think you're right, Don. I think once the housing gets underway, and I think people will say, okay, now there is some place to move to, right? Because that has been a huge problem. Well, there just is no place to live, right? So this.
Well, we've expanded so rapidly in
Yes.
such a short period of time.
Yeah, so that was the last piece of the puzzle, right? We always talked about that, right? We had the sewer, we've always had the water, we got more water coming, and you know, we got the fire hall, we got the RCMP. So the last piece has always been housing, right? And that seems to really be ramping up now. So that's great.
So, along with this, I mean, you can consider us basically a one-employer town.
Yep.
My life has changed the fabric and the composition of this community without question.
Yep.
What about other kinds of
Well, we've had
industry
people,
that-
you know, we've had people that have been interested, but nothing has ever happened yet. I still think people haven't, you know, we're in an being north of the #1 highway, and I know that it's interesting, right? Because southern Manitoba has always had that mentality of, you know what, that's the golden triangle down there with Winklemore in that area, and I think people are just starting to come on stream now with what we are, right? I mean, we are a town that the census is going to show, I believe, that we're well over 6,000 people. And I don't think a lot of businesses really understand that yet. And when they see that, and then once they see the big boom here in housing, I think that's going to make the difference. I really think that's going to be the trip point.
Well, when you take a look at it, we have two major routes
Yes.
connecting here, 16 and 5.
Yeah.
When you take a look even down Morden Winkler, there's not a huge major route there.
No.
It's access to the perimeter and #1 and that kind of thing. But
And you know what, we're very inexpensive yet. I mean, when you talk to southern Manitoba and we say we're selling our lots here for $45,000, they go, really? I mean, like, why would you sell them so cheap, right? I mean, that's, you know,
their prices are considerably more.
So, I mean, I really think the potential, I think we're just starting to get there now. I think over the next 2 to 4 years, you're going to see some type of business show up here.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say even some more commercial businesses, maybe that are just, you know, just stores. But
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think we need another large industry.
no.
But we need something substantial, you know, 20, 30 people, those kind of things.
Yeah, and I think it's coming.
And that would be good to hear.
No, I agree with you. No,
Yeah.
it's an exciting time. Like I said, I've said it before, right? Lots of small towns are trying to figure out how to maintain their population, maintain their tax base, and you know, it's just not an issue we have, right? We're trying to figure out how to.
Well, and I noticed tourism, Neepawa tourism has really got things going. You've got the Riverbend market happening in July 23rd, 24th. Pretty exciting.
That's a great idea.
Local stuff, nice PR rolling out now.
Yeah.
They're doing an excellent job.
Yeah, that market thing really, I just learning about that over the last few days. And I know that was kind of talked about last winter, and then they weren't sure with the pandemic.
Yeah.
But it's a great idea.
Oh, it's outdoors.
Yeah.
Those markets, and it's in an ideal place right along the highway. So people traveling through, we can stop there and take a look at what's happening.
And I think they're already at 16 venues that are already wanting to come. So, I mean, these are early days yet, right?
Yeah.
So, no, that's a great idea.
Yeah, there's a lot happening. Let's update with the cemetery.
Okay, so well, you know what? I don't know if you've been out there lately at all. We've done a really good job of starting to do what we always talked about. We were going to kind of, you know, level out a lot of the soil there. We committed to a lot of new tree renewal there. just not there. But I mean, just talking to Denis, he said that there's over 2,100 trees that have been ordered by the town of Neepawa. But it's kind of like a lot of other things, they're hard to track down with the world we live in. But I think we have 1,600 that are coming, got 1,100 that are going out to the bike park, I think, and then we have 100 for sure going into the cemetery.
So what kind of trees?
They're all kinds. We're going to do all kinds.
So you just do a nice mix of
lots
trees.
of different ones with different flowers and different looks. And I know there has been a couple of phone calls to the town about some of the big trees have been coming down. These have been marked for quite a few years. But I think the problem, two things I think people should be aware of, and we tried to discuss it at the council. Well, we did discuss it at the council table last night. Was these are trees that are rotting from the inside out. There's been a lot of bug infestation. Is that the right word? Anyhow,
infestation.
Thank you. Yeah, so they've been doing that, and Denis, the town has actually spent a lot of money on trying to maintain these trees with sprays and things like that. But the time has come. So, yeah, it's just nothing's forever, and so that we're moving on from that. And no, I think we're doing very good out there. Yeah.
And you've targeted for the summer what kilometers of road repair you're going to be doing?
Yeah, and actually we approved on some more last night too, which
Okay.
I was really happy about. We were first of all waiting to see how much we were going to spend on actual road construction with the CN property and stuff like that. But we want to start. It's always been a long discussion on. It's the chicken or the egg, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're going to repair the top of a road, then what happens if the water and sewer underneath is not that many years away, right? So, but the council has made a decision that we've kind of been in this holding pattern for a long time where we can't seem to decide what to do. So we've decided to go back to that plan of micro-sealing. So I don't know if people remember, but I think it was either 4 or 5 years ago, Denis used that as kind of as a test area, that micro-sealing on Broadway, the one that goes out to the golf course.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so that's micro-sealing. And I mean, it does a really good surface, and it's not big bucks. And then if you do, say, in 5 or 6 years, break through it to repair your water and sewer, you're not going, well, that was a waste of money. So this year we targeted, we were hoping to do more of Hamilton. Our plans were Hamilton and Brown. So we looked at doing all of Hamilton from the museum down to Broadway. But we don't think we have quite enough money to do that. But we're going to see. There might still not be enough money in the budget. But for sure, we're going to do Brown Avenue. So Brown Avenue, we're going to start at the water treatment plant. And it'll go by the post office, down the hill, past the Kinsman Courts, and it'll go right to Hospital Street, which is the school.
Yeah, okay.
So you know what, and it's like anything else, you can't finish what you don't start, right? So I really like this idea that we've committed to this, and this is about $250,000 that this project is going to be to do what we're trying to do. And I just think it's, if we could commit that kind of money every year on a go-forward basis, and if you did that over the next 10 years, I mean, you would do a lot of street renewal. But you're right, in between, there are going to be areas like in front of the new Kinsman build there where there's going to have to be a lot of work done, right, to bring that one up.
Yeah.
And those areas will continue, but we have to start, that I think of that street that goes by the RCMP and the credit union there, that's a pretty tough street.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
and we know that. Commerce Street's being done this year, right? That's being looked at and repaired, and I don't know if Denis taking out the speed bump or not, but that one's being done. So, yeah. So, I mean, no, it's exciting, and I'm really glad because, we're into our third year and here now, and we had some goals we wanted to get to, right? And that was one of the goals, is we wanted to really show.
So is your asphalt recycler playing a role in this?
Yeah, not in that particular, nothing to do with the micro sealing, but no, it's out there, yeah, and it's and actually Denis actually has thrown quite a bit of money at just crack sealing right now too, and they started in the cemetery. They're working out of the cemetery, and they'll work down Elizabeth and Whitmore and those areas, and they're going to do a lot of crack sealing too. So, yeah, no, that's something we really wanted to move forward on, and I and it's not that. The town, it's just that they had so many projects on the go, right?
Yes.
Between the lagoon, between the fire hall, between trying to get the CN property ready. So I think now that we've kind of, now actually have the ability.
Those are all pretty big projects.
Yeah, but I think now that we are, I've always said once the administration staff is given a goal and given the tools and the money to move forward on it, yeah, that's exactly, so it's working good, I think.
Park Lake.
Well, again, we keep asking because, we've been told that it's been, like we've had all the engineers out there, they've sent the reports up, it's supposedly been approved, The last, I mean, this is disaster money, so it's out of our hands, but we've been told that the federal government has signed off on it because they are the ones that contribute 90%, and it's now the last piece of the puzzle is the provincial government. So we're waiting on that, but as we talked about, if we don't get going, we won't get going, right? I mean, we're coming close to the 1st of June here, right? So it would be nice to get a go-ahead. But again, it won't be us, but...
And your second reserve, 2 million
gallons?
gallons?
Yeah, the tender's that went out, and I don't know the name of the person that was awarded the contract, but it was a name that everybody was comfortable with and had a good reputation. And that has to start right away because, you know, we live in a world where it's hard to get certain products, and the rules with that one on our restart program with the provincial government was we have to have that completed by March 31st next year.
Well, we also want to make sure we get it filled.
Yes.
Because that's in addition to the 1 million one you have now, right?
Yes, yes.
So at the end, you'll have 3 million liters of reserve on hand.
So that, according to what Denis told me, is that'll give us 3 days of reserve. Unless, you know, so unless you had a huge fire or something else bad was going on, and say the water treatment plant went down or we had an issue, we would be good for 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah, the other thing is, you know, they're still talking about bringing water through from the Assiniboine, right? Which is, you know, it's right now, it's in that Arden area, right? And the pipelines have come that far, right? And
all the way from the Assiniboine, they've come that
because there's been talk about the aquifer, right? I mean, it's been dry, right? And there's, you know, it's used a lot, and so it'll be interesting.
Well, all that irrigation.
Yeah, all that irrigation.
And a hydrologist once told me that it recharges on snowfall, not really on water, rain. Well, we have not had much snow these past few years.
No.
We need a huge dump one winter
Yeah.
to start recharging that again, because lots of people are pulling off it. May come a point where they stop the irrigation.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, we're very fortunate. I mean, we're not, like, again, you look down to Morden, it's having issues with the lagoons, and they have a man-made lake there, so now they have issues with their water, right? So they're in the worst of all worlds, right? So, but it would be good if the Assiniboine did continue to push this way, right? Because then we would have multiple sources, right? So, so that's good.
Gasifier?
You know what? I just sat at a meeting on Monday, and you know, everybody says the same thing. You know, why do we set timelines? Because we've been setting timelines for 3 years, right? And it's as close as it's actually finished. It's now a finished product. It just has to be moved on to the pad that's been created.
Did you get the levels by the province? Did they finally tell you levels?
No, we have. Well, we have the levels, but we still have to do all the emission testing, right? So that's the next step now, right? So that's. Yeah, no, it's been an interesting, because it's such a unique product and it's different from anything else.
People don't know what coat to put on it.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? And now coming into the mix is who owns all the intellectual property, because you know, it was developed by a certain company, and they've added stuff in, and you know, it's been an interesting journey. And at the end of the day, it's still a great idea, but until we get the emission testing done and see how it works.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't have thought that kind
No,
of an argument
I think there was a
would be-
lot. And like I said, I've only sat on it for a couple of years, but I mean, there are board members that have been there for, well, I think it went back to 13 or 12 when it started. And yeah, it's been very frustrating for some of the people, but I think at the end of the day, it was just one of those projects where it was just so new that there was no...
People didn't know what to do with it.
They didn't know what to do with it.
And they're afraid to make a decision.
Yeah.
Before they thought they worked out all the kinks.
Yeah. So.
And in reality, once they do that, doesn't matter. Once it gets operational, there'll be things they never even thought of.
Well, like I said, someone like High Life could actually buy one of those and stick it right on their property, right? And they could, like, one of the ugly things they have is hog hair, right? And that, I mean, that's something they could take. I mean, I think it's got tremendous potential, but
interesting.
We're not there yet.
No. What else was I going to say? Bike park, you talked about trees.
And they've actually just done the broadcasting of all the grass there. So they got a special blend of prairie grass seed that kind of matches into the landscape there. So that's just been completed. So that's exciting. And I guess that's the other thing we should talk about. I don't know if people really realize how much that bike park is used. There is, and not even just for bikes, but for walking, right? Like people just kind of use that as a walking area too, going out that way. Like it's amazing how many people go out there. And
well, isn't that wonderful?
Oh, it's just great.
Yeah, much better than building something and nobody came.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it wasn't even that much personal money out of the town coffers, right? It was it was a lot of government grants, and it's been and again, we didn't know that we were building it for a pandemic, right? Because it's all self-isolating, right?
Well,
so.
The other thing is too, it was just so timely. We had such a volunteer base come out and help. The local bike club just. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've had some local clubs go out there. I think baseball, I'm not sure about 4-H, but there's been some local clubs that have gone out to help plant trees. So that's been good. And in just in that same trend, like we've hired, I just asked Jamie this morning, and she came up with I think 16 students that have been hired this summer for the town of Neepawa.
I see them out there cleaning the dirt off.
And that's exactly what I was just going to mention. They're underway with their their yearly cleanup and getting everything ready and spruced up. And
have you hired enough that are swim instructors?
Yep, we have the number. Yeah, no, we're good to go there. We just have to wait for our wonderful government rules to tell us what we can do, right? And Gloria Speece told me that she's getting ready to, in the next week or so, to hang all the flower pots around town and stuff like that, so that'll all be ready to go. So, it's, I mean, we've been out cleaning the streets, and it's spring, right? It's summer pretty soon.
Wow, it's really coming along quickly.
I know.
We talked about our growing and the numbers. How did you feel the census rolled out this year? First year that it's pretty much all online. I know I heard complaints from people. May 11th deadline hit, and they got their reminder notice to fill, but never got an original.
Yes, but so I'm confused on that, because Colleen kind of mentioned that to me the other day. So I think you have more time than May the 11th, right?
Well, apparently, and that's being confirmed. We've got something from the chamber.
Yeah.
They'll collect into June.
Yes, that's what I was told.
But on the thing must be completed by May 11th. Yeah. Well, there were people on May 11th that didn't have one, and I thought, if we want a true representation of what's going on, my other most recent experience with census before, and there was a lot of lead up to it, a lot of publicity and promotion.
I agree.
And a lot of boots on the ground working at things. Now, I didn't observe that this time.
Like Colleen just mentioned, we've had a few phone calls at the town office, right? And at the end of the day, all we can do is redirect you, right? But she was mentioning Whitmore Crescent as an example of how things kind of went off the rails a little bit, because for whatever reason, the census people decided to separate the sides of the street. And for whatever reason, one person went down the one side and the other person was a few days later, right? So then people thought on the other side, well, I haven't got mine. They've missed me. Well, no, they hadn't missed them. It was just that it was a different census person that was going to drop off the package, right? And I think that's been occurring maybe more often than we think, where...
May the 10th, the town of Ridley Mountain hadn't received any.
Wow. See, and I didn't know that.
See, so now that's been rectified. I mean, these are... we've been saying, here, call these people. They want to know. They want to get the stuff out to you.
I didn't know that.
But given that and it states on there, by law you must complete the census.
You must complete it, absolutely.
And we gave information out and talking about just one person fills it out per household, and you just list whoever's there at that time. It doesn't matter. They're not interested in why they're there. They're just, what are the numbers?
But my understanding is if they don't, at some point that will get triggered, right? Because if they don't get a reply from a household, they will eventually show up to talk to you, right?
Yes, they will. Yeah, they did. Yeah. They did the last time.
Yes.
They would come a week later with a notice or knock on the door and say, "We need your census."
Yes. Yeah.
And recognizing or being aware of the fact that there can be fines and even jail time depending on the offense. Yeah. Associated with it.
Yeah, and you're right. We want. I mean,
we want to know the numbers.
Yeah, it helps our town a lot to know the numbers.
But it's clear that there's. Personal disclosure, our census took 5 minutes.
Yeah, me too.
And others I'm talking to, an hour later, there's just all these other questions.
Yeah, we didn't get the long form, so we just got the short form. So, but it was simple. Go online.
Well, and a lot of people still needed paper.
Oh.
A lot of seniors.
Okay.
Who aren't computer literate.
No, that's
true.
And
in COVID time, they don't have anybody just running over and.
No, you're right. No, you're right.
So there's just a need for that,
but you're right. It's important. I mean, we really need to know where we are as a town. Right?
Well, certainly. So what else have we got on the go?
Well, we had a council meeting last night. I mean, we're just, there's nothing. Our council meetings, I'll be honest, over the last month have been fairly short. There's, we passed our budget. There was nothing.
Are you pleased with the budget?
I am happy with the budget. I think, there's always been that position that some people believe you should kind of stay pace with inflation and you should always raise your property taxes accordingly. But I'm not convinced of that. I mean, we're a well-run town, and we're doing all the projects we want to do, and we're not saying, oh, we can't afford to do this. And because of the pandemic, we made a conscious decision for last year and this year, so it's going to be back-to-back years where we did not raise the mill rate. And I think it was the right decision. And I think, well, obviously the council thought it was the right decision too, because that's what they voted for. So,
yeah, but how? My question as a citizen would be, how long can you carry that?
Well, you know what, and I find that I find that interesting because I know you look at other towns like Dauphin and places like that. There are certain towns that have actually lowered their tax base over the last few years.
Oh, okay.
Like as a growing town,
Yeah.
You're obviously adding more money into your coffers, and that's an interesting. You know what? I think you can pick a side on that one, and you can say, well, with inflation, you have to continue to keep people engaged. What they're probably going to pay a little bit more every year, because then all of a sudden they're worried they're going to get whacked with this big bill. But I find that interesting from a small business point of view. I just think if we can run efficiently and not, I don't think. I know it'd be interesting to see. I mean, next year maybe. See,
I guess my concern, and I think what some other people might be feeling too, is that if you leave it too long, suddenly you got to play big catch up. And I think that's what they're afraid of.
Yeah, and I do agree with that.
If you've got 2 years in a row where you didn't, and then the next year you did slightly.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see if you did a pattern of 1 year we don't, 1 year we do. Something. So you're at least sort of keeping pace. I think you're right. I think we're benefiting. We're having a windfall from the fact we've had growth.
Yeah.
More people are paying taxes.
Yeah.
More money's available.
Yeah.
So do we need to raise it? But at some point, to get locked into that and then suddenly saying, well, we've got a big deficit coming up.
I agree. And we're not even close to having any type of deficit issues. And I think people in the back of their head always have Winnipeg on their mind, right? Because, Winnipeg kind of got caught in that for a lot of years, right?
Yeah.
And I think people always go back and go, well, that worked out terribly, right? So we don't want that to happen here. And I agree with you. So I agree with you. I think next year you might see that 1 to 2% bump, depending on what the inflation rate is. But I think it's great when a town can say we're a well-run organization, and you know what, we feel comfortable standing pat.
So what you've talked about now is what you've got on the go. So what do you project? Because as you say, you're moving into the third year. You're 2.5.
Yep, we're 18 months away from another election.
Yeah. So what are you looking at in terms of going forward? What would you still yet like to do?
Well, you know what? It's funny. I was just, we actually were talking about that the other day. Obviously we've mentioned it multiple times. The big projects, right? The reservoir that's coming on stream, the RCMP, the fire hall, the lagoons, the CN property. But I think now that we're coming into, we have a better understanding of how the town operates. We have a better understanding of where we are financially. My position is, and I think the council's position is, we'd like to move forward in some of the nuts and bolts of the organization that we talked about 3 years ago. And those things were streets. We talked about street renewal, and that is starting to unfold. We talked about recreation. And I really think that that's something we're going to really see move forward here over the next 2 years. We have because of a grant that we're applying for and we're hoping we're going to get, but even without the grant, we're going to move forward, and we have a strategic plan coming where we've talked about now moving off the flats and moving more into the Riverbend Park area. For a lot of our recreational projects, right?
Yeah, because you had thought that maybe things like the tennis courts, pickleball courts, so leaving that more as a green space still, maybe some walking trails, that kind of thing.
And the soccer fields.
And in the soccer
fields. And
fields,
then you'd have the skating rink there in the winter.
Yeah.
It's just that, it works so much better at the park area in terms of parking and just that particular area, and we have.
Well, it could become a hub because
Yes,
you've got your
yes.
swimming pool there,
Yeah.
and I know we've had discussion here about thoughts of how one would expand. We
Yeah.
know that, I think as we even mentioned last time, an indoor pool is just completely out of the
No,
question.
it's not going to happen.
But there
no.
could be an expansion
Absolutely,
to what
yeah.
is there at the pool, and
Yeah.
it gets used a lot in
Yeah.
the summer.
And I think that you'll see that now that we've got these big projects behind us, and I mean, there's always another project. I mean, there's always a bridge that could be built, or there's always going to be another project that could eat up cash. But I really think that we're at a stage now where some of these things that have been pushed back for a few years will now come to the forefront. And I agree with you. I think the pool would be one of them, whether it be water slides, whether it be a water park, whether it be, we definitely have to get more accessible there, right? I mean, we're not accessible for wheelchair and that type of thing. So we need to, and that would take a lot of money. Like we're looking at as much as $1 million there, right? But those numbers aren't as scary anymore, right? Because the town is.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's an economy of scale, right?
Yes, it is an economy of scale.
It really, 10, 20 years back, $1 million, oh my Lord. Now it's sort of, oh yeah, okay, we can make that work.
Tennis courts and the pickleball court, about $600,000 for that. So again, those are things that we really want.
But that would be a nice area where you've got a combination. It's almost like a recreational park.
Yeah.
And both spaces are easily accessible to each other, whether it's soccer fields and the flats, or walking trails, or you're walking trail in and you can go play tennis. You can bike. You can maybe linking that somehow up to the bike. The bike park as well. A real series of recreational stuff. And summertime in Manitoba can be beautiful. It can be blisteringly hot. This summer, supposedly, so things like the pool will be a real big pull.
Yeah. We just need to get out of our pandemic mode here, and hopefully with the vaccinations that will occur here, and we'll get back into that new normal that we keep talking about.
People want to go camping. People want to do all sorts of things.
So I think that would be the goal of this council now, is that we want to get back to some of our original goals that we ran on. I've always felt comfortable that I think the community can talk to us. I don't think anyone's hiding from anybody. I mean, we're always willing to listen to anybody's concerns or opinions, and I think that's where I'm thinking we are for the next 18 months. I mean, a lot will depend, of course, on us getting the code reds and the things we're in right now, but I just think the world is going to reset whether we want it to or not, right? People are going to move back into.
Well, it's also been interesting because you've been the last council and this council, especially, have been councils with a growing town.
Right.
Not something that's sort of, okay, this is what it's been like for 20 years or more. And that means there's been constant changes, constant adjustments, constant challenges.
Yeah. And I mean, good for the last council, and I've said that lots of times, right? Good for the last council and the current administration that's been over both of them to be forward enough thinking to say, no, you know what, we could do this, we could do that, but we got to get the structure in place, right? We got to do the lagoons, we got to do the water. Yeah, you got to have those things.
Those are essential for growth.
Absolutely.
If you're going to have growth, those two are key components.
And now with the housing, and now the fact that we've had private people engaged now, right? Because the town didn't want to do the CN property, but nobody else was interested. Like, again, because I just don't think we fit that model yet of what Southern Manitoba is. But now that people have seen what has happened there, and those lots just going poof, right? Like, now you have private enterprise coming in going, oh no, we're going to do this. We'll buy the property, we'll develop it, we'll put the water and sewer in, we're going to take it over. And
so you've got people approaching like that now.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, I always said there was that trip point there someplace, right? And it's occurred. Yeah.
Because I know that was a real stumbling block until that last council finally said, previous council said, look, we're going to do this.
Right.
Enough of waiting and waiting and waiting, and it's paid for itself.
Yeah, it has. And I mean, a lot of people thought that was a mistake for council to get involved in private enterprise like that, but they just had to do it, right? And it's worked out.
And the interesting thing I find is the councils, previous and this one, have looked at going back to municipal-driven support.
Right.
Snow removal.
Yep.
Street repair.
Yep.
Things like that, which done right,
Yeah.
is probably the most effective, as opposed to always worrying about contracts.
Well, and you're right, and you said it before, right? We live in a climate where the summers can be short. You have winters that can be unpredictable, and if you're relying on someone that is not under your control,
Yeah.
bad things can happen, right? So yeah, no, I agree with you completely there.
Yeah, I find it interesting because we've contracted out garbage,
Yep.
and we're doing the bin thing, and I my impression, but it's just my impression, and I really don't have a lot to base it on, just what I observe, seems to be going well.
Yeah.
What are your
You know,
thoughts in the town?
yeah, I think it is. They had a hard act to follow because we had a really good garbage pickup from the last people that had the tender, but this is a different system. You know what? The tricky part is, it's not their fault. The biggest problem we're having is getting people to really understand the recycling side of it, right? Making sure they get the right things into that recycling cart, right, and not garbage, right? That's been a big issue, and it's not their fault. That's the town's responsibility to kind of figure that out, and that's going to be an ongoing project. That's education.
Well, I know that you've had, on occasion, I've seen notices.
Yeah.
People, inspectors have actually gone down and said, sorry,
Yeah.
you can't use
You
this
can't
as
use that,
garbage
yeah.
this time.
Yeah. I think we are moving. It wasn't my first, when we first talked about it, they were talking about fining, and I said to them that was not I was hoping education would solve that problem. I said, you know what, why do we, but I'm starting to realize that maybe the repeat offenders over and over again, we will have to maybe start looking at some type of monetary.
Well, and if you're inspecting and you say house A, okay, I've been there 4 times,
Yeah.
and 4 times
Yeah.
it's time to look at fining.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I think that's where we're heading. But in general, because I sit on the Evergreen board, we talked to the people, and they said that they found that Neepawa's recycling has improved a lot. So the education's actually working.
Oh, that's
So,
good. And
yeah,
I
so that's
agree.
good.
Education, as opposed to a punitive measure, I always believe is the first go-to. See if
Yeah.
you can make it work. Let's communicate and have dialogue.
Yeah, but garbage is always garbage is always an issue, right?
Now,
So,
we mentioned this before. Anything new on this front, considering we talked about a 3rd pickup with compost?
yeah, again, that is down the road, and that actually, it's probably not anywhere on the horizon, Don, but it will come. And as the new lagoons, as our new system kicks into place, the old lagoons could actually be recycled for that, right? So that could actually become a composite
Just a huge compost pile.
Yeah, and that actually falls under the provincial government, and there's actually money for that.
Oh,
So
wow.
so there's a future there too, but that's probably 2 years away.
Okay.
But you're right, it's out there. Yeah, I know. My daughter in Kelowna, they have that. They have the 3 pickup like that, and yeah.
That'd be wonderful because it would encourage more compost
Oh, absolutely.
recycling.
Yeah.
Park, Riverbend, campgrounds.
Yeah, again, everybody, as soon as the day we opened up the phones to, we're just like the provincial government, right? The phone just rang off the hook, and everybody just wanted to book that day. And we only have a limited number of sites, and yeah, people just want to get out and camp so bad, right? And but we're basically just booked for the summer now.
Well,
so.
I'm looking. There's that the road between Carberry and Glenborough was closed.
Yes.
Smoke, and that's right in the Spruce Woods
I
area.
know, so it's got to be. I was know exactly what I was thinking too. So actually, one of our fire trucks had been asked to go down there yesterday with 6 guys, and they were just part of the control group there in the Carberry area, just to make sure everybody was safe and secure. So yeah, we've been gone down there twice. So I think they got some rain there last night, So.
Oh, that'll be good because remember that big fire?
Yeah, I know.
What, a couple of decades ago or more?
Yeah.
Just burned out a whole big chunk.
Yeah, they did have people ready to be evacuated down there and stuff like that, but I think they've pulled back on that now. So, and our fire trucks didn't go down today. So,
Okay.
So yeah, it's dry.
It's There's lots going on. Anything else you can think of from the council?
I don't know. Like I said, it's summer's coming. We've had some public hearings, but again, that's just been on what we've talked about on new developments. No, it's. I don't know if we're just getting comfortable, Don, or there's just not that many. no, I
How's the library going? I'm just pulling that out.
Yeah,
of there.
actually, that was interesting. Yeah, because a couple of council meetings ago, we had like Jason Nadeau sits on our. He represents us, and he goes to Brandon, but it's all been Zoom now for the last year.
Yeah.
But now I'm sorry, I can't think of her name. I met her once.
Shirley?
No, This is the one from Brandon.
Yeah, Shirley or Sheila?
No, that's not it. There's a new one took over there. Anyhow, she came, and she. It was good to listen to her. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's been challenging times for them too, right? And. But they're chugging along, and they actually were getting ready to reopen here, right, and to get back more to a normal until the last shutdown, right? So, I mean, who would have thought that we'd be sliding into a second year, right? I mean, we just never.
Well, initial thought said it could be 2 to 3 years.
Right.
We're sliding in the way we are now because of the vaccine.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is the vaccination. No, you're right.
The new Kinsman Courts building.
Yeah, I mean, it's we've been told that they still are hopeful to be open for September, October, and they've been taking lots of applications, and I think it's progressing pretty well. I think they're pretty comfortable with the.
Are they getting a lot of buy-in?
I think so, and that's a big area they're sweeping, right? Because I mean, they're not as expensive as some of the Brandon and those areas, so you might even get some people moving, right? So. I mean, that's good. I mean, we're fortunate with the school system that we haven't had to shut down yet, right? I mean, Carberry had to close and McCurry had to close, and we've been very fortunate here that our kids have been able to go to school. And again, that's interesting because I don't know who I was, maybe it was Murray, I don't know, but anyhow, that they say we're full again, right? Like all our huts are full, the brand new school is full.
I know.
Like there's just,
They're
actually starting to talk about another school. Which is...
Well, you know what? If they're looking at that new development south of Veterans Way, there should be property put aside for school.
Well, that does come up. That's interesting because I wasn't really understanding that, Don. That actually does come up this discussion when it's at the planning board
because
stage.
You're looking at what, 150 homes there?
How many? Yes. Yeah.
150 homes. You're looking at potentially 300 kids.
Yeah.
If not more.
Yeah, the provincial government actually has the power to ask you to set aside 10% of your property.
Well, and they might do. That would be an ideal place for the school, right close to development.
Yeah.
No busing.
Yeah.
Really could walk.
Yeah. No. That has actually already been brought to the table at the planning board. So it's interesting. But you're right. So it's hard to believe, right? We built that new school, and we thought, whoa, we're so lucky to get a brand new school in Neepawa, Manitoba, and now we're going, okay, but now we need another one. Like, who would have thought,
who would have, right? It's quite, when you start looking at all that stuff. And then that begs the question, we have an education reform happening, and we still is up in the air what's really going to happen with that. Nobody really knows.
No.
And we have not yet heard the rollout for the shared health reforms.
No, I mean, that would be, we're always hopeful, right? I mean, we're well positioned here. I mean, we've got a great clinic, and with our growth in our town, and with an aging hospital. But, who knows what the provincial government's thinking, right? And we can think good thoughts. And I mean, we're surrounded by some pretty big centers, right? We got Portage, we got Brandon, we got Dauphin, but we're still well located, right? So it'll be an interesting.
Well, and Portage isn't as easy.
No.
I mean, people look at it, but wintertime and all sorts of things in the smaller area. People are going for surgery there. That's fine, but the day-to-day clinic stuff and what happens, it needs to happen in a hospital, an emergency, and all that. It will be interesting.
Like you say, the provincial government's been consumed by the pandemic, right? So I think once they can kind of get that on a back burner, I think they can go back to talking about their education reform and their health care reform. And it'd be interesting to see what even family services, they're doing lots of stuff too, right? So, I mean, it's got to be a challenging time for those guys too, so.
So you take a look at 18 months left in your term.
Yeah.
Tell me, was it what you expected?
Yeah, okay, good question. I haven't been asked that. You know what? I guess I used, I think I've said this before, right? I used my private enterprise with Chalet, use my years of experience as a volunteer board member on Touchwood as my basis of how this would work. But it's different, right? And that's the one thing and that was just being naive. Being an elected official changes the perception of the community, right? What you can do in a private enterprise, what you can do in a nonprofit, whether it be a school division or a healthcare unit or a Touchwood Park, or what you can do in a town setting, right? Because when you're in a town setting, you are right in the optics of everybody, right? So you're really always under that observation of people, what's going on and what are you doing, and that I found that I wasn't quite, and actually it gave me a lot of respect, because I never really understood that before. When I listened, when I hear the administration say, well, you know what, we have to be careful because this is something that might come back, and from a council point of view too, right? And yeah, so I found that really interesting. That I didn't expect that so much, and I think what I realized, and I've been told this before, is that this is probably the purest form of democracy is at this level, right? Because this is still the one area where you can actually walk up and talk to your councillors and talk to your mayor, and that doesn't occur provincially, and that doesn't occur federally, right? I mean,
no, there's always layers or buffers
yes,
in
there's
between.
lots of layers,
and nobody wants to make a commitment.
Yeah, and I mean those layers can, if you don't really want to see someone, you're never going to see them. So I mean,
But people can walk up to you and say,
absolutely.
What about the road on
Yeah,
3rd Avenue?
that's
It needs to be fixed.
That's exactly correct. And some of my Touchwood individuals tell me that. So yeah, I want that pothole fixed. Okay, we can do that. But it's true, right? I mean, I think that's really interesting that this is such a pure form of interacting with, and it's too bad that we don't get more power in terms of money, right? Because I think this is also the level of government that can be the best people at using that money, right? If the government, if the provincial and federal governments would send more of that money this way, I mean, if
you decide how to use it
Yes.
because you know what the needs are. I've heard that discussion in other kinds of forms as well.
Yeah.
Not just through the municipal, but I hear what you're saying. It's very grassroots.
Yeah.
And yes, people in Winnipeg don't know what we really need.
Right.
We know what we really need.
Yeah. No, it's too bad. 'Cause even when it comes to housing, right? I mean, even for low rental or senior housing and things like that. I mean, there's no one that understands it as well as a town does, right? So
Well, we have provincial housing, right? We have some of that still.
a little bit, but Pal's just sliding out of that, right? Like
He's trying to. Like, we still have the Yellowhead, though, right? Is that not still?
Yes. Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
That is still yes. That is still provincial. You're right. Yeah.
And there's an argument to be made, especially amongst the housing nonprofit groups, to maintain that, because otherwise it takes housing
Yeah.
out of the affordability of people who can't really afford.
Like our Osborne units, right? That
Yeah.
that came up for sale, and Touchwood Park bought them, and I mean they bought them for lots of reasons. But I mean those are extremely necessary things in a small town, right?
Yeah.
And if those housing units had gone to private enterprise, and then been turned over, it would have been a big hole in our community, right? So yeah, that. So I guess going back to what you asked me originally, I think that's what I've learned in my role. Otherwise, it goes back to simple basics of if you've got good people in their places that are running your town for you, and you let them do their job, and you stay out of their way, and give them the supports they need to feel comfortable at doing what they're doing. And that's what works the best, right?
So I'm gonna ask you a question.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you the same question when I do an exit interview with you and the other members who may decide to stay on or not stay on. Report card. So right now, if you were to give your council, the council you're involved with, a report card, what would the letter be?
Well, you know what? I guess I don't know. I don't have enough past experience to tell you that, Don. I guess
from when you got in and what you wanted to do and what you felt you've achieved, what would you grade?
I would
yours
say, I would. I mean, I'd be nuts not to give us a good grade, right? Like, I guess.
F isn't going to cut it here, buddy.
You know what? I'll tell you this. I've really been impressed. I was just sitting last night at the council meeting thinking, because we had a discussion on a fence. There was a fence that we couldn't decide what to do. And I was thinking how much we've evolved in those 3 years, because we would have probably not, it would definitely not been as much chatter at that meeting. We've at the end of the day, we're so much more comfortable now, because don't forget, 5 of us were new, right? It was 5 out of 7, right? And I know a lot of people go, well, you've got 3 years under your belt now, but still, it's taken us a while. So yeah, no, if you're saying in terms of if we're an A or a B or a C, I guess all I can say is we're definitely moving in the right direction, right? Because we're
still haven't given me a letter. I'm not going
well, I'm not going to go below an A, am I? Because why would I? Why am I going to throw myself under the bus? So,
so you're qualifying that A?
But I got nothing to compare it against, Don. I mean, that's my.
Well, just in terms of what you hope going in to achieve. Let's frame it in that.
Okay, we'll go to a B then. We'll go to a B. Yeah, no, we still got long ways to go. Yeah,
but so that's still fairly.
But I am impressed how we've and it takes a while. I mean, everybody's just kind of. Yeah, it just takes a while for everybody to get comfortable with everybody, right? I mean, you put a lot of new people together, and it takes a while for everybody to understand personalities and goals and needs. And
well, also you must take a look at put the shoe on the foot of the administration.
Yep, absolutely.
They have new people to train.
I agree.
And teach to begin with.
Yeah, and this was very unusual, right? To get 5 out of 7 new, right? I mean, yeah, they're looking at us going, okay, what do we got here? And how's this going to work, right? And yeah, no, it's been interesting. But I think again, what I learned was if someone like myself, who I'll be honest, didn't have any political background experience when it came to stuff like that, made the decision to run. I think it just goes to show that if you have if you want to do something like this and you feel the need that you want to come and be supportive of the town, I think anyone can run, and I think you can do good things, right? And I think turning councils over a good thing. Whether it's maybe 4 years is too short, maybe 8 is the right number to stay there because you really get a good understanding on your second term, but. Yeah, I think what this council has taught me is that we need to step up, right? And it's no different than a volunteer board, right? It's hard to find volunteer board members now too, right? Everybody's busy and everybody's got lives and.
Well, and we've seen some changes and some impacts on some of the local not-for-profit organizations that have not been able to do what they usually do. We talk about the Yellowhead Center. We talk about Arts Forward. Restrictions, things like Margaret Lawrence, all sorts of things that have been impacted, yet still are valuable resources and still need to be there when the restrictions go.
Yeah, and that will be interesting to see how because I think a lot of people, they've been actually figuring out, okay, now that pause has occurred and we've seen how it's worked without this happening and with this happening, I think you're going to see a lot of different things as you move forward now. Whether it be in the way the money is spent and the way that management is run, or even simple things like meetings, right? Like Zoom meetings and things like that now, right? Where you don't have to always go, I've got to be there at one every month now. I mean, people can Zoom in and
yes, that's true. That certainly has been
and I think that'll make a difference too, because
byproduct
don't you think so? I think a lot of people are going, I don't really want to commit to 12 meetings a year, but I think if they went, well, maybe if I get to half of them and the other half I do the Zoom,
or alternate, it just gives people that break. I had somebody approach me the other day, and it gave me pause for thought and to ask a question. The courthouse. What's happening with the courthouse?
Again, it's kind of been put on the back burner, and you're right. I'd love to take some time, and once we get by some of these other issues we've got. And what is the future of the courthouse, Don? I know I've often asked that question.
It's a beautiful building,
absolutely.
But it's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's a bit of an anachronism as far as building goes, because it's not built the way we work today.
Correct.
It's got lots of stairs. It's got tinier, all those kinds of things. And and the person had an interesting question. It's a beautiful building.
Yep, I agree.
Historic. Why can't it be used for something? They thought some kind of local municipal kind of there. I can't remember quite what it was.
We talked about that, and I'm not even disagreeing with you. I think that's a discussion that's going to occur here. But I mean, you're right. It's one of those buildings that looks gorgeous, but then when you step inside it, it has so many limitations, right?
Its functionality is not as
no, whether it be for computers,
as good as what it looks.
Yeah, it's not. And even if you start adding in elevators and things like that, it's still this. It's not even as big as you think it is inside. Like it's not like it's. Yeah, I don't have the answer to that one. We've had occasionally we'll start talking about it and go, well, maybe we could do this, maybe we could do that.
What about its business center? Different businesses having small.
Again, but then you're back to access, right? I mean, you can't move in that building without stairs, right? And it's hard to get air conditioning into that building, and it's.
Well, where would you put the ductwork?
Yeah,
it's all
just
brick
like
and mortar.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. It's one of those buildings that's gorgeous, and yeah, you know what? It's been a discussion. You're right, and I don't disagree with you. And it was discussed. When did we have that referendum? Were you around for that when we had that one 20-some years ago? It was being discussed whether to knock it down or save it. And
see, if we didn't have a museum, I'd say that might be a place for a museum.
And to me, that would make sense too.
That would be a little bit different. Again, there'd be an access thing, but it's hard because it is a lovely building. You'd hate to see it go.
Oh, I don't think it's going anywhere. I mean, you're right. But it eats up a lot of cash too, right? I mean, it takes money to maintain it, and I don't disagree with you. Sorry, I don't have the answer on that one.
Oh, well, at least I got a letter grade out of you.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
I was working on that. Anything else you see sort of going forward that you think?
I guess I'm just looking forward to getting the vaccinations out there. I think everybody's looking forward to that. And the second.
Do you know if we've had good turnouts to the pop-up clinics we've had?
I think we have. I think I hope so. Like, I know that. Like, there's one here on the 20th, right?
And another one on the 26th.
And I think from what I've been told is they might even be open. They might. Don't quote me on this, but they might be starting to add some second doses into that 26th one, eh? But I don't know who they would target.
Well, I saw recently a criteria list, and it's pretty, elderly and immunocompromised, and people, for example, who are getting home care at least 4 times a week.
Okay.
Things like that.
Yeah.
They haven't opened it broader because have you had your first?
I've had my first. Yeah.
So you would want a second. I'm in the same.
Yeah.
Many people here have had their first, waiting for their second.
Yeah. No, I think you look at I try to keep track of the numbers. It looks like they're doing between 10 and 13,000 people a day now in Manitoba. So that's getting close to 100,000 a week. So you start doing, and I don't know where that stop point's going to be, where that falls off. But if you can continue to do 100,000 a week, like my grandson, he's 12. He's getting his shot on June the 1st. So, they've got to that age group now. So, I think we're doing
Well, we've seen some real interesting collaborations. Some of the local indigenous areas who have a surplus of vaccine have been opening it up to people, anybody, which I think is absolutely wonderful.
No, it is great.
No. People just turn up, come, get their shot, away they go. They said, we have a surplus. Why would we not?
Yeah.
And I think good on them. I think that's a really nice thing to see.
Like, I think we're living in a good part of the world here. I think we're very much in favor of vaccines in this part of the world, in the Prairie Mountain Health region. So I think we're having a really good uptake in our vaccinations. So I'm very comfortable that we're going to move forward.
Conversations moving all over, I find today. But one of the things that just made me think, we have municipal boards or organizations. A number. Every municipality has one. Every town has one. Is there a local sort of Minnedosa, Gladstone, North Cypress, Langford, Neepawa group that gets together at all on a regular basis to talk about the area? You know what?
That was discussed when we first came on council. We had some discussions with North Cypress and Rosedale and Lansdowne, and then the pandemic showed up and it just went off the rails. But no, there is nothing. Well, you get together on certain boards, right? The clinic is made up of municipalities. Evergreen's made up of municipalities. But no,
nothing around strategic planning for the area.
No.
In terms of if an industry is coming to Neepawa, how does that impact Minnedosa Gladstone in terms of housing, or vice versa?
Yeah. No, I'm not just. Yeah, no, that has not occurred during my time here.
Because we're seeing the urban centers, we're seeing some of the larger rural ones, but now that we're seeing growth, well, look at the growth that's happened in Gladstone.
Yep.
Certainly the growth that's happened here, but growth that has happened in places like some in Minnedosa. Russell is another place that's had a lot of growth.
Yep.
Newcomers are coming in from all over the place. Interestingly enough, more and more.
Well, you know, those are ideas that have been discussed, but I just think, you know, I think you don't realize how busy you become in your roles, right? You have all these boards you have to sit on, and all the council meetings you have to be at, and I mean, you do have verbal conversations with them, and I think if anything ever did occur that needed the help of, you know, say a Rosedale or a North Cyprus or something like that, or Langford, we would definitely engage with them, because, you know, we have all those contacts and we know these people, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, don't forget, we had the July 1st flood last year, right? So that kind of,
oh gosh,
you know, so that kind of took us out of the loop for a while. You know,
Yes,
it's been interesting times, right? So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I was thinking about that the other day. You know, what's this Christmas going to be like, right? Are we going to be back to having Christmas parties? Are we going to be able, like, we've pushed off a lot of retirements, right, for people. We'd like to have some type of celebration for them, right?
Lots.
And is that going to, is that coming back this winter?
Still very much an unknown.
Yeah,
Still very
exactly.
much an unknown.
Yeah.
Overall, if just from your perspective, how would you rate Neepawa's success or coping with the pandemic situation?
You know, from my point of view, I think we've done really well. I mean, it's a stressful time. I mean, it's a lot of it depends on your personality. I think a lot of people struggle with the pandemic, and they're worried about it, and they're worried about how it's going to affect other people. But I think from my point of view, from whether it's at the council point of view or when I deal with Touchwood Park, which is with the individuals with intellectual disabilities, I mean, I think we've done a great job. I mean, I think I would say I'm very proud of the way the town has responded, and well, you just look through it, whether it be at the Elks or the Yellowhead or the Kinsman or Country Meadows, like, we've done a really good job.
Well, we certainly haven't had the unfortunate challenges that many of those kinds of larger groupings, situations have just been. It gets in, and people are.
And some of that's luck. I do appreciate that. But I mean, at the end of the day, we've done a really good job. And then even the small clusters we've had a couple in the schools and stuff like that. They've closed ranks right away, and we've been able to control that. So I would say we've done a great job.
Well, I think too, kudos has to go to our educational people, our healthcare people, and I'd say our people like at High Life, with so many people working. Good heavens. In other jurisdictions in this country, it's just been catastrophic.
Yeah, I don't even know how many other meat packaging plants have not. I mean, I think High Life's one of the rare exceptions, right, that's been able to.
They've really done a tight job.
Yeah.
Been very challenging logistically. Must have been extremely challenging.
I think so. Yeah. No, we've been very lucky. I mean, we've been very fortunate.
So I guess we, you know, that's good to be able to say that at the end of the day.
Yeah, and maybe it's our location, our population, the way we're spread out. You know, we're not but it's worked out well. When I look at Prairie Mountain Health in general, right? I mean, we've done it extremely. Yeah,
I think we've done well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Well, I think we're coming to the end. Anything you would like to add at this point?
No, I don't think so. We got May Long coming up. It looks like the weather is going to be typical May Long weekend weather, right?
Well, you know what? We need the rain.
Oh, absolutely, we need the rain.
So if it's going to rain, I'm sorry, campers. You know, but if you're used to May Long weekends, you're used to camping in the rain anyway.
Yeah, and hopefully it's the last long weekend where we're going to have to be under these restrictions.
They're talking about a brutal summer.
Yeah, I know.
Talking about a drought summer. So any rain we can get going now.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. No, I agree with you. No, just looking forward to a decent summer, and like I said, seeing our vaccinations and restrictions go down and vaccinations go up, and
okay,
that's what I'm thinking.
Well, folks, just an item. The town has taken to fairly regularly printing fact sheets, whether it be about recycling, about the parks, about vaccinations. Please go to the town website and take a look at some of these. They're very interesting stuff you may not have been aware of. What you can put down the toilet, what you can't, what does go into recycling, what doesn't, little things. Things like making sure there's a fire ban on now, it's still on, and just keeping touch with things. Otherwise, I would say thank you for tuning in. Please be kind to each other. And if you haven't been vaccinated, I really would recommend you go and do it. It helps not only yourself, but your community members, your families. And the more we do that, the sooner we're going to have these restrictions lifted. So for me, Don Walmsley, on behalf of NACTV and our mayor, Blake McCutcheon, thank you for tuning in. Actually, we've had quite a rambling chat this day, but hopefully it's given you some more information. And please feel free to call the town directly if you have any concerns. And if you have anything you'd like us to bring up on Council Checkup, please call the office here at NACTV, and they'll take down your questions, and you can be assured that I will ask the person or people in those chairs those questions. So have a pleasant day, and until next time, be safe, be well, be happy.